Welcome to Father Fish and the Natural Aquarium. Hi there. Did you see? Tommy said to me he thought the crown looked silly. I reminded him the whole thing. But it is fun, isn't it? Welcome. Delighted to be here. Delighted to see everybody here. We got a gang in the house already. Let's see. Jeff is here. Jeff Fairchild. Who else is here? Fashion Tactics is here. Welcome, welcome. Jeff says I'll be 4 weeks in this coming weekend. I've had no problems. All right. Richard Karabeck, hi everyone. Sutton Road Aquatics, hey father. Security Monitor. Sailor Red is here. Hey Sailor Red, nice to see you. Elf Puncher. Adam Armbruster, hello Adam, great to see you. Josh Foster, I love the fish stuff, he says, me too. Medieval Mind, and Christian is here. Hello, Christian. I got a thought on my mind that's been kind of on my mind for a few days now. It's something that I want to be careful because it's the kind of thing that could easily be offensive, and I really don't want to be offensive. But there's some things that are just offensive to people who, for whatever reason, I guess, need to be offended, if you know what I mean. You know, it's like, should we not offend the Ayatollah? He is the most offensive creature. So the notion that, oh, don't be offensive, don't be offensive. There's another way to get at this, though. I had, and I wasn't going to do this, but I had an experience a couple of days ago, 2 days ago, I guess. Might have been yesterday. Lord, no, I think it was 2 days ago. No, it was yesterday. It was yesterday. It was Thursday. I was in my car going to get lunch and got distracted and saw a red light just as I was coming up to it. Slammed on my brakes and stopped a good 10 feet out into the almost under the line, for it and reverse backed up. There was a car on my left that was coming through. I think it stopped. If it didn't, I was out of there quick enough that it was able to keep coming through. Pulled down a little further, started smelling. I have a kerosene stove in the back of my car, been carrying around, that my brother loaned me. I started smelling kerosene, so I pulled over to get back and straighten things out. And sure enough, it had fallen over. Nothing, the carpet didn't get wet. A little bit of it came out through the top of the burner because it fell over. So I got that straight. And then as I was finishing up, a car pulled up with a woman in it, and she was livid. She was so angry. She was the car that was coming up when I kind of got into into the the middle of the road there under the light and backed up. And she was so angry. She was going on about how she had a 6-month-old baby in the back, and she was obviously frightened, very angry, very upset. And my response was to do everything I could to not escalate her anger, to 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 just take it in, to be positively responsive. She wanted me to apologize. I apologized. She wanted me to say I would be more careful. I said I would be more careful. She was just going on and on and on. And finally, I guess she said everything she had to say. And she kept saying, "You have to be careful. You have to be careful." And I was saying, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." Just taking all of that in and not giving her any, not creating any kind of conflict at all. Trying to de-escalate her anger, at least not escalate in any way at all. But it was interesting. It kind of stuck with me. I mean, I was distraught that that had happened, that I had missed that light and almost went through it. I saw it red. I saw it red, and my foot was on the gas, and I saw it red, and I quickly slammed on the brakes, threw everything in the car forward, backed up out of the intersection. I was a good 10 feet into the intersection. Might have been further in, I don't know. I was probably under the light or darn near. So I was clearly in the wrong. Don't know if I'll get a ticket for that. I didn't go through it. I don't know. I may get hauled into court over it. I guess in a case like that it would go to court. I don't know if I got a summons, because I'd want a judge to adjudicate it. I guess my concern is I'm 85 years old, and they could say home. So my response would be, I've been driving for 75 years. I've never had an accident, never had a claim. Um, never. I've had 4 tickets in 75 years, and none of them are speeding tickets. They were turn tickets or other parking tickets, whatever. Of course, the answer is, well, good, it's great. You can quit while you're ahead. So I don't know. But to get back to the woman, I took that in, everything she said. I responded to her positively. I'm sorry. I was in the wrong. I'll be more careful, whatever it is. She kept demanding that I apologize, which I did. But it stuck with me. It stuck with me. And I found myself struggling with, why did it stick with me? What was it? I mean, the event itself was harrowing enough. But I was pleased I was able to catch it, and not have an accident, not have somebody run into me because I was in the intersection when I shouldn't have been. Nonetheless, it stuck with me, and I began to understand that I took in all of her anger and all of her frustration, all of her fear, all of her anxiety. I took it all in. I accepted it. I accepted all of it. I became, I don't know what do you call that? What do you call that exactly? The ancient Jews used to call it scapegoating. When they would put all their sins onto a goat and scoot it out into the wilderness. Jesus did that. He took on all of the sin, all of the error, all of the shame. He was certainly, well, I can't say I know how it affected him. I can't say that. It certainly had to have had an effect. But that stuck with me. And I think what stuck with me was I began to understand that when we get angry, when we react to someone who's angry with us, and we react with anger or frustration or trying to justify ourselves or trying to say, no, you're wrong, what we're doing is we're warding off, we're trying to keep that anger and that frustration and that fear that they have from entering us, from coming into us. And I didn't do that. I let it come in. Now, it wasn't painful. It didn't hurt me. It didn't cause me to become anxious or frustrated or enraged. In other words, it didn't turn into anger. It was like a weight, like a burden. And it was a burden that I knew was mine, that belonged to me, that I had to carry because I was in the wrong. But it did something else. I think it took the fear and the anxiety off of that young woman. She got it all out and she drove off. She said all that she had to say, and she had a lot it went on for a while. It went on for a couple of minutes at least. And I said nothing at all in my defense, not a single word. I simply acceded to her every wish and her every demand. And that was a unique experience because I'm a guy who tends to get defensive. But I knew I couldn't do that in that instance. I knew it would just be wrong to do that. I had caused her, my actions had caused her to become very frightened and very upset, and then very angry. Anyway, I don't know why I have not completely digested that, so I don't know what exactly I do with it. I think it changes me though, in a way I'm not altogether unhappy about. I did not lose my peace, Squirt. That's the whole point. I kept my peace because I gave out peace. I felt the burden. It's like carrying a heavy weight, carrying a stone. You know, although I don't feel burdened by it, I do feel, I don't even know how to describe how I feel about it. Maybe that's not what's important. Maybe I don't know. She needs a father fish aquarium. Well, thank you for the segue, Adam. Right. And there it is. And that's really what I wanted to get into. She needs a father fish aquarium. Indeed. Indeed. And this is kind of the point I wanted to get to. So that incident is not irrelevant because what I encounter all too frequently, and especially on Reddit, which I go to rarely because It's unnerving. But when I do, I find a host of people there who are angry at me. They're angry. They don't like me a lot. And those occasionally somebody will say, oh, well, yeah, but, and they'll get landed on with both feet and fisticuffs will ensue. Every 100 comments or so in the comment section of the videos, there will be someone who will say something particularly cruel or crude or hateful. And occasionally, I have in the past encountered that when I felt as though there might be some possibility of rapprochement, of coming to some agreement. But more often than not, I don't, because I've realized there really isn't any. There's no way I can reach them. And if it's particularly hateful, I'll simply ban them from the channel. Lord knows, I probably have hundreds of people I've banned over the years. I don't even want to look at the ban list. Every once in a while, every once a year or so, somebody will ask me to take them off the ban list, and I'll go through it, and it'll take me an hour to find it. Well, I'll find it and take them off. But what is that? What is that? What is it they're angry about? It's easy to take that personally, but I don't think it's personal. I'm a relatively insecure person, as many of us are. It's easy for me to take it personally and say, "Oh well, it's my demeanor. It's the way I talk. It's who I am. It's whatever." But it's really none of that. I think I know what it is. And I want to show you. Father Poseidon. It is that. It is the belief that I carry and that many of us carry, that nature is wholesome, that nature engenders health, engenders growth, engenders joy, that nature is something to celebrate and something to participate in, which runs counter to the perhaps 18th, 19th century notion of nature raw in tooth and claw. I don't know if you've ever heard the expression, nature raw in tooth and claw. In other words, nature is the jungle, and the jungle is filled with enemies out to devour us. Nature is a frightening thing. Nature is something we must guard ourselves against. So I don't believe any of that. I don't believe that's the nature of nature. And I think the whole notion of what I've done with the nature aquarium is consistent with the belief that nature is wholesome. Now, that's not to say we don't eat each other, because we do eat each other. We all are, after all, creatures, and creatures need other creatures to survive, not just for companionship and socialization, but for nutrition. We need to eat other living things in order to survive. Life thrives on life. Doesn't thrive, it may thrive on death, but it doesn't thrive on non life. We don't eat rocks. Now we drink water, which is part of the reason, a big part of the reason, I think, that I make the claim fairly routinely that water is alive. There, boy, that really gets to some of the naysayers. They just, oh, he's a madman. But I've done some research on the nature of water. Some of the most interesting, to me at least, modern research indicates that water has very unique properties that are not at all similar to the properties of other non-living things in the natural world. By the way, thank you, Julia, for the, the Texas mug. Is Julia here? She should be looking at her mug. My small aquarium is nature because of you, but I need help, says Potted Jen. Let's see. Fish and shrimp need help, probably snails. I don't see them often. I don't know if the snails are still alive. All right, get into it here, Pat. What's the problem? Richard saying, I wish I could give you some advice. Yeah, I'm not sure I need advice. I think this is simply something I need to meditate on. I need to grow through. I need to come to a deeper wisdom and a deeper understanding about, because I feel very positive about it. I don't have any negative feelings at all. Talking about the incident with a woman, I have a very positive feeling about that, and there may be more ensue from it. I don't know. She may not overcome her rage as easily as that, and try to pursue it in some other way. I don't know. That's completely up to her. Uh, I hope it didn't give her any additional reason for that. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't know her heart, and I don't know where she's really at. I did what I could at the moment to de-escalate and to take in what she had to give me, and to accept it, and to accept it with humility and sensitivity. And maybe she got that. Maybe she felt like I was just stringing her on, and I don't know. Maybe I was. Maybe I was just trying to mollify her and to, just keep things calm and try to get out from behind it without things blowing up. There certainly was that about the situation. Anyway, back to this nature thing. It's a matter of the way you experience the world, the way you experience reality, really the way you experience life. Because we experience life in terms of in terms of what happens to us, and how we take it in, how we deal with it. If we deal with it with frustration and rage and anger, we're going to have a hard time creating a natural aquarium, because we'll keep trying to fix it. I think a big part of um, the notion of bringing science to the aquarium is really saying we can't let things go on naturally, because it'll fall apart, it'll burn, it'll crash and burn, it'll all die, everything will deteriorate, and it'll be terrible. So we have to fix it. We have to do something. We have to put chemicals in it. We have to control it. And I think that's what so much of the industry taps into, is that notion that nature is not to be trusted with itself. Certainly with our little fish and with our little aquarium, we can't trust nature because nature's going to screw it up. And so we prove that. If that's what we believe, then and we take on the father fish challenge of putting a dirt layer down and sand on top of it, we will do whatever we need to do to sabotage it. And because we will need to prove it doesn't work. And we prove it doesn't work by making it impossible for it to work, by doing things so intrusive that it crashes and burns. And then we can blame Father Fish. Say, you don't know what you're talking about. I stuck the hose in there and filled it up and looked like hell, looked like just a mud pie. Right. Well, I'm sure you did. And I'm sure it's exactly what happened. Or 82 degrees. I keep mine at 62 degrees. It's healthier for the fish. And then when they get ick, I poison them because it's healthier for the fish. So I don't know exactly where I'm going with this, except that we're on to something, guys. We're on to something that really does provide it provides a certain kind of feedback, a feedback that allows us to experience a very deep sense of satisfaction. And that satisfaction comes from the very real desire to be able to set this little aquarium up and have fish in it that are happy and healthy. And when we can do that, it just makes the heart feel good. The feedback that we get from that is so much more than we put into it, that it becomes, and I believe this is why there are people who, well, like Cinnamon or Christian or Adam, they're people who just they they find so much joy and so much pleasure in this that they continue it. It grows, and they take a deeper and deeper joy in it, and it changes us. It changes us. It makes us somehow different, somehow happier, somehow better. How can I do this? I was at I went to a vein specialist that I have been having issues with my legs for a while, and they're doing vein treatments. They've done 4, and they need to do 4 more to get some lower veins opened up. And my attitude about that is, it's going to make me better. It's every time I have a problem, a physical problem, and I see the doctor and I get some medication or I get treatment or I get some kind of therapy, it makes me better. And I feel stronger and I feel healthier. And I know I've got all these issues, but they're not overwhelming me. And I don't know that it's prolonging me particularly, although I'm 85 and doing fairly well, as I'm fond of saying. I'm in great condition for the condition I'm in. But it gives me a sense of just being able to be positive, just being able to feel as though I'm maximizing myself in some way. Now I know there are so many more things I could be doing. I tend to be lazy. I tend to procrastinate. I tend to not want to do things that I don't know how to do well. All of that. But physically, I mean, I'm an old man. I walk like an old man, and I guess I talk like an old man. But I don't know. I'm not racked with pain and agony. I'm uh, I overcome whatever the current distress is. I do something about it, and it makes it better. I got a new pacemaker, and it's wonderful. It's making both sides of my heart's beating, and I'm not exhausted anymore. I mean, I could walk for hours. If I got something to hold on to so I don't fall over, I'll do it, and I do. I use a cane when I'm on longer walks. If I'm in a mall or wherever shopping, I have a cart I'm holding on to, and I don't get tired doing that. It feels pretty good to not have to sit down and gasp for air. And that's the pacemaker doing that. So anyway. So the notion is that I feel like I'm rambling here, but I am trying to get to something. And I guess it is that in order to be able to do this, you have to have a positive attitude about nature. You have to believe that nature is something that we can survive in to the extent that we can survive, knowing that we don't survive permanently. We don't live forever. I was listening to a song today, I think, Forever Young, the song Forever Young. I want to be forever young. What a foolish thing to say. The only way to be forever young is to die young. Then you're forever young. Then your whole life has been young. But why would you want to die young when you can be forever middle aged and forever old and forever older and maybe forever oldest? You can be all of those things, and they're all different aspects of who we are and what we're about. Forever young. I feel sad for those who have been forever young because they're gone or soon to be gone. They're not among us. I want to be forever old at this point and forever older and maybe forever oldest. I had someone make that claim for me once. That was kind of extraordinary. All right, so Pat did my small aquarium is sanctioned because of you, but I need help. Let's see. We can get into Pat's issue here. The latest 4 hours a day must be full of algae. Must be. Let's see. I want to spank my Harlequins. I know, they're a bugger. It doesn't say. He's got it down to 4 hours. Well, all right, here, let me explain about algae. If the problem is algae, and I'm just kind of guessing it is, we all face that. I've got a tank right now that's got algae in it. Algae if you've got a lot of plants in your tank and you're still getting algae, then you can control the feeding and that'll help. You can do water changes and that'll help. But that's not the issue. The issue is you have more light in there than the plants can use and more nutrients than they need. And so algae, which is another kind of plant, algae stands in line and it's kind of in the back of the line between all other higher order plants. Now get this, this is important to understand. A higher order plant is able to harvest nutrients, including light, more directly and more quickly than algae. It's simply a more sophisticated creature. So it's able to do this better. But there's another thing, and that is that higher order plants are able to store sugars, which allows them to continue to be alive through periods where there's lack of adequate nutrient, lack of adequate light, all of the things that are the necessary forces and necessary nutrients to keep them alive. They're able to survive through that. Algae can't do that. Algae will essentially die. And what it does is it goes into a spore form in which it's no longer active, but it's surviving as essentially a single cell. It's surviving as an encapsulated seed, if you will. And it can stay in that state for a certain period of time, not indefinitely, because it's burning energy and it doesn't have much energy. Eventually, seeds become worthless because they've burned up what little bit of energy they have just sustaining themselves, and they're no longer able to reproduce. Brine shrimp, the brine shrimp, encapsulated brine shrimp, the brine shrimp eggs, same thing with those. After a year, about 10% won't hatch. They've died. After 2 years, about 20%. And it works that way pretty carefully. After 5 years, only about half of the eggs will hatch. And they deteriorate over a period of time. I don't know how long they could actually last, probably up to 10 years or so. A few could. Don't know why, but a few will. But that's the issue with algae. It's not able to sustain itself without nutrients. And so if you shut off the light completely for a matter of 2 or 3 days, it doesn't hurt the plants at all, and the algae will die. It just dies. It all falls down. It can't maintain itself because it doesn't have the reserves to be able to do it. It's like a baby fish. Baby fish has to eat all the time, because it doesn't have any reserves. Baby Nemos, the baby goby, the saltwater goby, as well as most other baby fish that hatch from external eggs. When they hatch, they may have a yolk. Once that yolk is gone, they'll die without nutrient. The baby goby doesn't have a yolk. When it's born, it's been a month in that egg, so if it doesn't have food in the first couple of hours, it dies. It needs to eat instantly, virtually instantly from the minute it hatches. And algae is like that. Without nutrient, algae doesn't survive. It may take a couple of days, but it's gone. It'll die. So if you have an algae infestation, cover the tank with a blanket. Turn the lights off. Cover it with a blanket. And make sure you've got your air aeration going, so you're getting air in there. It's kind of replenishing itself, allowing CO2 to exchange to occur. That's the most important thing. And then take it off after 2 or 3 days, and the algae will be gone. It's just, it's pretty impressive, and it doesn't hurt the fish, doesn't hurt the plants, doesn't hurt anything, but the algae can't tolerate it. If you got baby fish in there, they probably won't survive. They might if you got a pretty good food web. They can carry on. How to determine the optimal photo period? You have to play with it. Who's that? That's Ken Bracken. Good question, Ken. I think that's something that it depends entirely upon your tank. Entirely. There's no set. It's not like 8 hours a day of light. You have to have 8 hours a day of light. Henry Hall. I've mentioned Henry Hall any number of times. Henry Hall was a master fish keeper. He was able to keep fish nobody else could keep. And he kept them for years, and he grew little fish into big fish. When I saw his aquariums, now he kept big fish, and he kept them in bare tanks. He had a sponge filter, a tray filter on the top with sponge material in it, an airlift tube that delivered water to that sponge. It dripped back down in, no lights. The only light he had was a 100-watt bulb in the middle of the ceiling. That was it. No lights on any of his tanks. And those fish lived. Now he did do routine water changes, but he only did water changes when the fish showed signs of stress. When it was not eating, or when it was wobbling, maybe when its color was off, when it was reacting to its environment in a way that demonstrated it was being stressed, then he would do a water change. So he didn't do regular water changes, in other words, because he understood that if there was a problem with the water, it would be reflected in the fish's behavior. So he was very acutely aware of the behavior of his fish and acted accordingly. He fed once a week. Well, he fed less often than that. The big fish he fed twice a month. And he fed fish. His theory was the best food for fish is fish. He fed goldfish. I mentioned this, I think, last week, and I went with him on some of these trips. We'd drive up to Frederick, Maryland, to the fish farm, the goldfish farm on Goldfish Road, up near lily ponds. If you've ever heard of lily ponds, one of the oldest lily farms in the country. It's in that area. I used to live there. Remember one evening, a friend of mine and I snuck into lily ponds, and it's kind of because there are parts of it that were off limits, and we wanted to see it, and we kind of snuck in and checked it out. Anyway, he would do that twice a month. Go out and buy, at that time, I think about $25 for the fish. And he'd get bigger goldfish, not the little ones, but like 4-inch ones, a couple of hundred. Bring them back. Basically, he fed them all out. He would keep a few back, and over a period of the next few days, feed the rest of them out. And that would be it for a week or two. But these were big fish with a lot of reserves. Big fish don't eat so often. They'll eat a bigger meal and then they'll kind of go into a state of rest and relaxation, I guess. But no light, no light. Fish don't need much in the way of light. There are a lot of fish that live in the dark. They'll live under a log if they're in a creek or a river. They'll be hiding most of the time. They'll come out occasionally and play in the light. I think they need a certain amount of light, but they can tolerate a lot of dark. And there are fish that live deep in the ocean where there is no light at all, and they spend their lives there. So in the dark is not impossible for a fish. It, of course, is impossible for a plant because they have to do photosynthesis. Not impossible for a sponge. It is impossible for macroalgae. They have to have light, but sponges don't. Fungus doesn't. Bacteria doesn't. None of those things really require light at all in order to thrive. And most fish really don't require light to thrive. Kind of brings up the issue of fish sleeping. Research indicates that fish don't sleep. They don't go through the kind of, and it's probably because they're not warm blooded. They're a cold blooded animal, and so they don't do REM. They don't become unconscious or don't become unaware of their environment. They're always aware. They may rest, but if you've ever encountered a fish at night and gotten near it, it'll dart away. It's aware. It's not sleeping. You can't pick it up and it's not like that. It's alert. It's just not moving. My hog choker, freshwater flounder, Nick's Outdoors, is not eating. Tried different foods. Even put it in a tank higher with other small tank mates. Can't get it to eat. Sometimes fish don't eat because they're not hungry. They don't want to eat. Other times fish don't eat because they're sick. We do tend to worry, but I think we worry overly much about that. Hog choker is a fish that is an opportunistic feeder, as are most fish, but its opportunities are rare. It depends on finding something on the bottom that it can land on top of, or that it can sneak up on and grab. That's going to happen. It's not going to happen every day. That may happen once a week for an older fish. It may happen once a month. Fish don't eat routinely typically, particularly older fish or bigger fish, more mature fish. They eat much less frequently. If the fish is not healthy, you'll know it. But if it's simply languishing, being lazy, just laying there, scooting around, looking normal, but not eating, it's not eating because it doesn't need to eat. You can't force them to eat. You can't jam food down their throat. I guess you could try if it's big enough, but generally speaking, it's not an issue, in other words. But you need to be observant. If it's not acting right, if it's having trouble with its equilibrium, if it's discolored in some way, if it's blotchy, or if its skin seems to be breaking down, if there's a protrusion, if there's something visibly wrong with its behavior or its appearance, then then you need to find out what it is and deal with it accordingly. You need to treat it, in other words. But you need to be careful about that treatment. I use a lot of antibacterial ointment, Bacitran, or any of the common antibacterial, like triple antibiotics and the antibiotic salves. They work wonderfully well. You don't have to have a big glob of it on the fish. You only need to have a very thin sheen of it. If you catch the fish and it's got a spot on it like bacteria or something, and you just put a dab on that and touch it, it kills that bacteria virtually instantly, which then provides enough of a shield for its slime coat to cover it, to protect it so it can heal. It's amazing how effective that is. Which reminds me, I saw a spot on one of my discus today, right on the dorsal, and it didn't say anything to Bryce about it, but I need to make sure tomorrow to do that, to dab that. It may go away by itself, but it may not. It may get worse. Bacterial infection has a way of doing that, has a way of getting worse until it's treated. So it is important to treat a bacterial infection. Bacteria attacks living flesh. If you see fungus, and I've said this often enough, but fungus eats dead flesh. Fungus eats what the bacteria leaves behind or what it creates, which is dead flesh. Fungus will grow on that. But if you see fungus, that means there's a bacterial problem. That means bacteria is breaking down the flesh, and that's what the fungus is feeding on. So this big white fluffy stuff that's growing on the side of your fish, you don't need a fungicide, you need a bactericide. And the best bactericide, the easiest one, is you just catch the fish with a net, you dab some neosporin on it, and it'll clear it right out. It's amazing how fast it works and how effective and how simple that is. You don't need to throw a bunch of chemicals in the tank. You just treat it topically. It's a topical problem. It's a specific spot on a specific fish. It's not everything sick and dying. It's one problem, one thing. Treat that one thing, and you'll be able to go on without it getting worse and killing your fish. Let's see. What's better, stream or pond for soil? Good question. I think streams actually are better. Um, the problem with pond soil is that it's very intense. I've used both, and the pond soil tends, you have to use it very gingerly. Use very small amounts, because it's, like I said, it's intense. It kind of, in a pond, it just builds up every year after year after year, and it becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. So a little bit goes a long way. In a stream, it's flowing, so a lot of the nutrients are flowing. They're going out into the ocean ultimately. They're flowing downstream. So as you get downstream, the water is carrying a bigger bioload, um, and at the same time is depositing a bigger bioload, but it's not like it's all staying in one place forever and just building it up, boom, boom, like that. It's moving down. Wherever you are in a river, the water at that spot doesn't change. Now, that's not to say rain doesn't alter it. It does. A big rainstorm, a flood will alter the water at that point. But once that passes, it'll go back to where it was. and it'll be as it was. The water at that point is not the same as the water at any other point, because as the water flows through, it's picking up nutrients or picking up whatever it's picking up. So when it reaches that certain point, it has picked up a certain level of material, whether it's nutrient or dirt or whatever. And at that point, that water is absolutely stable, minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, month to month, year to year. It doesn't change. Or if it does, it's very, very gradual. So it's not like it's refreshing itself. It's not. The water at that point, at that spot, never changes. It doesn't get refreshed. In other words, it stays exactly the same. And as it's moving through. Now, in point of fact, it is very gradually and very slowly building its nutrient level. But it's moving at such a rate that a lot of that gets washed down. So it's able to maintain a relative stability. There are rivers tens of thousands of years old that have not changed dramatically in those tens of thousands of years. So the notion that here's the point. The notion that rain, how can I say this? The notion that rain does a water change is not true. For one thing, if the water is 10 feet deep and it rains half an inch, that's 120 inches times 2 is 240. That's 1/5 of 1%. 1/5 of 1%, point 0.20 of 1%. 0.20% of the water is actually changed. The 1/250th. That's a very tiny amount at that given point in time. If it rains an inch and the water is 4 foot deep, that's 1/50th. One over 50. That's 2%. That's a 2% water change. That ain't much. And the rain's going to stay pretty much at the surface and fall on down. So it's really not even affecting the bottom so much. Upstream water is, because it'll mix in and flow through, but it doesn't change. The water in a river doesn't change at any given spot. It stays the same. It's hard to get hold of that concept, but once you do, once you understand that, then you begin to understand how it is that the same animal can be living at different spots in that water system and have a different appearance, a different behavior, because it has developed, evolved, if you will, matured in that specific environment in a way that is a function of that specific environment. You take that fish and you put it in a different, you put it 100 miles upstream, it might not even survive, although it probably would. But it might not. It might be so sensitized to that specific environment that you move it up or down any distance at all, and you stress the animal because it's dealing with this specific environment on a continual basis. It flies in the face of the notion that we have to do water changes. What we have to do is make sure that the water is not like in a pond, that the water is not simply becoming increasingly enriched with nutrients to the point that the nutrients over, or the availability of nutrients overwhelm the living creatures in the tank's ability to to use them all. And so you wind up with excess nutrient. When that happens, a water, that's what old water is typically. Um, and that in time will create stress. So that's one condition in which you need to be able to do water changes to reduce that. Now you can do it routinely, but the difficulty with doing water changes is that every time you do a water change, you're the reason you're doing it is to change the condition of the water. And when you change the condition of the water, you stress every animal living in it. That's why people who do routine water changes, at some point in time, every fish will die after a water change because something will have been introduced or there will have been such a substantial change that it stresses the animals and they can't survive the change. So you want to be very cautious and very careful about water changes. I've done videos about never changing your water, and I get a lot of criticism for that. Well, I've I've modified that to change your water when it needs to be changed because that's really the point. And the point being, you don't need to change it on a regular weekly, monthly, or even semi monthly basis. You need to change it when it needs to be changed. How do you know when that is? When the fish tell you. Henry Hall. You observe the fish. You pay attention. You get to know them. You get to know their behavior. You got to know what they like and what they don't like, what they're comfortable with, what being comfortable looks like. And when something changes in their demeanor, you know it. It's like raising a child. You know when something's wrong simply because you're sensitized to that child. Let's see. Hog choker. I got blue cribs the other day, two females and a male. This is Scort. One of the females already has a red belly. Do we need separate houses for the females? Or will they share? Females won't fight. Males will. Any of the dwarf cichlids, the best way to keep them is in pairs and small tanks. A pair of rams or a pair of crevensis, a pair of cerviceps in a 10-gallon tank is ideal. It keeps any kind of aggravation from other critters out of the tank. It allows them to pay full attention to each other undisturbed. And when the female eggs up, if you're feeding them, excuse me, if you're feeding them well, then they'll spawn and they'll protect their young, raise their babies, and you'll wind up having a bunch of fry. I think it's always smart to do the dwarf cichlids like that to keep them in pairs in small tanks. I'm not doing enough of it. I need more tanks. I think we finally started um, separating our plant vats, which are 20 to 30-gallon vats by species of fish, and we finally have a betta spawn in a one of the smaller 5-gallon tubs. And the babies are now a week or two old, so that's coming along. We're real excited about that. And we've got some better food we're feeding. We've got a micro culture going. We've got brine shrimp culture going. So we're finally getting all that together. And that ultimately will produce a growing population of fish, which is something I feel strongly about doing. It'll also give us the opportunity to breed egg layers, which we haven't done yet, other than the bettas and some of the um, acaras. Let's see. Fish keeping will just get you through a bad relationship rather than a relationship will get you an unnatural fish keeping. There you go. Yeah, I think that's true. I think fish keeping. I've seen this. I've seen this fairly frequently, where the husband or the wife will take an interest in fish keeping and get excited about it and getting involved in it, and it'll just kind of take off. If the partner is accepting of that and doesn't put the kibosh on it and say, you can only have one tank or two tanks. You can't have another tank. If they don't do that, if they allow the hobbyists to develop their hobby, then they will develop an interest in it because they'll find some aspect of it that they enjoy and that they can master, that they can, kind of get involved in, and at that point it becomes a shared experience. So I've seen that happen pretty frequently. It takes and I think it's frankly more common. I think the you can't have another aquarium attitude is something that it happens less often than we pretend it does. I think. Let's see. We do. Yeah, pay attention to this sale. We've got a great sale on. We're doing our stem plant pack, which is 12 stem plants for 59, I think, or 63, something like that. You get one free. You get a free pack. You buy one pack, you get a free pack. So you get double the amount of plants, and there are a lot of plants. I mean, it's 12 bundles. Each bundle has 4 to 5 plants in it, so that's like 50 to 60 plants. They run about $1 a piece, actually, if you price them out. So you're getting them for 50 cents. You're getting them for half price. You're getting twice as many, and stem plants grow like weeds. 90% of the plants are going to grow like weeds in your tank. The other 10% will languish because your tank isn't ready for them. And that's just a matter of waiting around a few months for things to change. I got this funny hair. Where is it? I can't see it. Right there. That is bugging me. Need to leave it alone. All right. Should I remove the dead shrimp? Should I? If it's more than one, you need to. You don't want to create a situation where you're getting a bacterial explosion. That's not good. If it's one dead fish, you can push it down in the sand. A small one, not a big 1-foot fish, but something small. Push it down in the substrate, and you'll be fine. Typically, when a fish dies, everything else in the tank eats it, so it'll disappear pretty quickly. If you got a bunch of dead stuff, then you got a serious problem. If more than one fish is dead in your tank, you need to get on that immediately and pay attention and figure out what's going on. Typically, it's ick that you have missed and that's taken hold and started to kill fish. Drive the temperature up, get all the dead ones out, kick it up to 86, 87, and leave it there. It may be too late. You can find ick after it's too late, when it's become such a horrible infection that the fish are being killed, and that happens as well. But that's why it's important to be observant. If you see 2 or 3 spots, one spot, I never worry about one spot. I never worry about it, but I'll look the next day and the next couple of days to see if there's more than one spot. More often than not, there won't be. But if there is, then it's important to kick that temperature up. You need to deal with it. If you don't in a week, your fish are going to start dying. It's that rapacious. And you have to do it. You have to do it. You can put chemicals in. It's a crapshoot. And it creates more stress. The temperature in a small tank, in a place, in a situation where you can control the temperature, kick the temperature up, deals with it instantly. Leave it up for 4 days after the egg disappears, because it has gone down into the bottom and is sitting there waiting for the temperature to come back down so it can get up and swim. It'll do that 4 days and then it dies for lack of nutrient. It's like the algae. It doesn't have any reserves. And so it can only last a few days before it dies without eating. It needs to eat more or less constantly. Fluvostratum, best are nature tanks. Actually, it's not best. Fluvostratum, it's a nice product, but it depletes after about a year, and it also tends to turn to mud. Um, if you're using stratum, cap it with sand. That'll hold the nutrients in, and it'll allow it to last longer. Otherwise, the water's just washing the nutrients out of it. So cap it with sand, and it'll last a year to 2 years. The benefit of the supplement that we have, which you can put in fluvostratum, you can add our supplement to stratum. It'll last for 3 to 5 years, during which time the full life cycle, the full web cycle will develop in such a way as to be able to regenerate all of the nutrients in a complete cycle. It takes a long time for that to develop, and you need enough nutrients in there to last until that can fully develop. That's why the supplement is so critical, because it provides enough nutrients to be able to survive in the tank for up to 5 years. Fluvostratum doesn't do that. You have to wind up fertilizing it. And you put fertilizer in, and then you're truncating the ability of the plant to be able to grow naturally. You're force feeding it nutrients that it doesn't need at any given point in its development. So stratum is not better than the supplement. The supplement is critical to being able to maintain stratum. It's also pretty expensive, but should have removed the dead shrimp. We got that. Let's see. The best for nature tanks is our system. It lasts longer than anything else. There's nothing out there that has the diversity and the richness that our supplement does. Nothing on the market comes close to it. There's not even any attempt to do anything that's close to it. The only thing you can find is fertilizer. And fertilizer is such a narrow range of nutrients that it doesn't provide the full range that's needed. We have 20 different ingredients in that supplement, and many of them are multiple. They're multiple products. They're products that contain a variety of nutrients. So there are 40, 50 different nutrients in that supplement. And in enough quantity, if you use it properly, those nutrients will last for years in that system. I have one tank that's 27 years old, and I have not changed the substrate in 27 years. I've removed some of it because it grows. If any of you have old tanks with a natural substrate, it gets deeper. It gets deeper and deeper because there are nutrients going into it, causing it to increase in volume. So it'll get deeper and deeper. Twice in that 27 years, I've had to reduce the depth of the supplement because it's a shallow tank. It's a 12-inch tank, and it got 6 inches deep, half of the tank. I reduced it down to, I guess, 3 to 4 inches, and I try to keep it there. But it's like every 4 to 5 years. It's not quick. It doesn't happen fast, but every 4 to 5 years it'll build up to the point where you need to remove some. That's a function of the quantity of nutrients going in the tank. Recommendations for tank mates for a male betta in a tent. Cory cats, snails, shrimp. You can put them in a community tank. You can put neons in with them, for example, or any small tetra, plecostomus, or small plecostomus, or good autocyclists, little algae eater. They're good. There are a lot of things. I keep my bettas most commonly in small aquariums with lots of other fish. They do well in a community situation. It's just not a problem. Jeff Fairchild, hello, hello. Let's see. We have run way over here. We're at 9:15. I guess I need to put a lid on it. We got a lot of people here, and we got a lot of comments. I've kind of wanted to do this on my own, but I'm not able to handle the chat, and I really want to be able to do that. It's part of the reason I went to 2 hours, but it gets protracted, and I can't do it. It kind of wears me out because I'm kind of pumped and up there, and I'm not in a rest mode. What is this? TJ2469. Why is this not coming up? I need to find it now. Just donated $200. I'm not going to be able to find it, probably. I'd like to highlight it, but it's not coming up. I don't know why. TJ says, we must always remember what nature is and what its author is. There's no more grave sin than the sin of impurity against nature. It cries out for vengeance. Wow. I think that's true. I think that's true. I don't know if I can find. I'd like to be able to highlight this. Thank you so much, DJ. It's very, very kind of you. Let me just scroll through real quick. Say it should pop up. I should see it. I'm scrolling from the top to the bottom. And I'm not seeing. There it is, right there. There we go. Thank you, TJ. That's very kind of you. And interesting comment. Interesting comment, isn't it? And I think that's true. I think when we, I think part of the environmentalist argument has some validity to it. Unfortunately, the environmentalist is creating the problem that they're pointing to by acting in ways that are contrary to nature itself. And I think that's where it goes off the tracks, because environmentalism is really a political statement and a theological statement too, if you will, for that matter. Environmentalists tend not to be theists. They tend to be atheists. They tend to believe that nature deteriorates and that it deteriorates by virtue of human intervention. That 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 nature has created its own demise by bringing forth human beings into its environment, and treating human beings as somehow the destroyers of the world. Um, I think that's backwards thinking. It's demonic thinking, truthfully, and it's something that is very much a part of the struggle that we're engaged in as a human species, between those those who are all about destroying humans because humans are the problem, and those who see humans as the caretaker, as created to be the caretaker of nature. In both cases, there's a concern for maintaining nature, so there's a commonality there. What is not common is the notion that of what the role of the human being is in it. Um, and I think what we're doing is saying, look, we're just going to let nature do its thing here and observe it. And what we're going to see is that with us playing the role of a farmer, playing the role of a gardener, of an enabler, of a husbandryman, if you will, that allows nature to flourish. So I think we're on the right track, and I think we have the equipment to be able to deal structurally with some of the fundamental issues that we're facing as a human species. All like that there. How do you treat a large tank of guppies? Some have sunken belly. Uh, That may not be, it may not be parasite disease. When a female finally exhausts herself of all of her eggs, she becomes hollow belly. It's what happens. It's what happens to this species. It's not anything that anybody can do anything about. It's just she's gonna stay that way until she dies, and she will languish, because her life's work is done, if you will. So don't be too distraught about old females getting sunken belly. It's just because they don't have any eggs left to fertilize. TJ in the house, big time. Yes, indeed, Sailor Red. Thank you. Do I read the comments, John Dodd? Well, we were just talking about that. Um, I I try to, but I get going in my own mind with my own talk, and when I do that, I'm not paying attention. So I probably really do need someone. Dean was doing that for me, and he did a yeoman job of it. And I very much appreciated that. That's what Dana was doing. I've had somebody along the way as I've done these live streams who's done that for me. Um, I wanted to try something different because I find having someone else distracts me from what I'm trying to get out, and it's difficult to overcome that. And it's not that person's fault; it's my fault because I tend to I tend to want to interact with whoever's up here, and but it may create its own limitations. So I don't know. We're just kind of playing around with this, trying to come up with a better format. And there probably is no better format. We'll see. We're going to keep doing this. Anyhow, we're at 9:30 or so, so we've run our hour and a half, and I ain't never going to get to the bottom of all this. Who's at Bum Rush Games? New member, welcome, welcome. And Holly Gibbs is here. Hey, Holly, nice to see you. Let's see what else is going on here. Laura Lanthas is a new member. A new member. Welcome, welcome. I do appreciate the conversation you all have with each other. Mrs. What is this? Mrs. T.S. Kitties, indeed, 3232. Welcome, welcome. Bunch of new members tonight. Appreciate it very, very much. Fish Family says, welcome to membership. Yes. Thank you, Fish Family. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Ah, TJ. Oh, dear. I'll tell you what, get in touch with me and I will refund. Now, the problem is YouTube takes 30% off the top. So you're kind of out $60, I'm afraid. And you might be able to get them to reverse it. I don't know about that. Um, but I will refund you. That would be like 130 of that, which is what I'll wind up getting. Um, you got that as a backup, but try to deal with YouTube and say, let me know. Just keep me posted, and I'll do what I can to help you out with this. I can always send you free plans. Yeah, I'm happy to do that to kind of make it up to you. That's terrible. I'm sorry that happened to you, TJ. But you did get a rise out of a lot of people. And a lot of people like you a lot now. So, but I'm not going to hold you to that. I will. I'll refund what I get, and if you can work it out with YouTube, so much the better. But at the bottom line, I'll also send you some plans to compensate you for the difference. I'm sorry that happened. Let's see. Scroll. I'm glad. That's why I hung in there to find that. Look at all these new members. Wow. Yeah, Christian saying, don't forget to join the show. It's such a joyous place and such a wonderful opportunity to get to. It's like an online club. By the way, while I'm on the subject, we are going to start a club in the shop, but we're going to do it as a combined online club. So you'll be able to join the club, be a member in the club, and also be able to participate in the events, which will be a monthly meeting, and an auction. We've done this before and it worked okay. We can do it, and we'll have to set up the mechanics to be able to make it happen effectively. But um, we're gonna make this happen. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll enjoy it. We'll all enjoy it. Let's see. I think I hit the bottom. Poor, oh dear. Poor TJ. Yeah, it's going to be fun, Christian. I'm excited about it. All right. We're gonna we're gonna call it an evening. Do keep me posted, TJ, on this. Um, I haven't had that happen before. That's really very unfortunate. But we'll make you whole. We'll make you whole. Not to worry. We're here to keep people whole and healthy and happy. And I don't think I can talk when I take my picture off. I don't. I think it deactivates the volume. But I wanted to see Father. Wanted you to see Father Poseidon again. Very cool. All right, we're going to play our music again. We have a new a new editor, Dwayne, who's in South Africa and is doing a bunch of new stuff, and he's done this.
Welcome to Father Fish and the Natural Aquarium.
So, God bless you all. Love you all. Be back next Thursday. Make sure you plug in Sunday and Wednesday night to the Dina and Brenda show. They're having a good time and are enjoying it. And I know the folks who are hanging in there with them are enjoying it as well. God bless you all. Love you all. Bye for now.